What's going on, everybody? This is Witz here, back for week 3 of the power rankings for the MBL, along with my co-host, Tailwind.
Hey, nice to see you guys.
After his week hiatus, how was your break? How was your break?
Yeah, it was good. Sorry I wasn't there for week 2, but I'll be there for this weekend. Hopefully next week. Probably will, but let's jump straight into this, shall we?
All right, good to hear. All right, so at number 12, we both agreed on Blue Hunnets.
Yeah.
So with Blue Hunnets, got swept by Zygarde. I feel like they could have focused the Drifblim a little bit earlier on, but the only critique that I have for them, and I said this in the last Power Rankings video, they put the Mega on the same sides again. And that really tells the opponent, I'm only bringing one of these two. I'm not going to bring both of them. Put your Megas on the opposite sides. It really helps when it comes to the bluff. Like you said, you were going to bluff the Hippowdon and Mega Steelix. It's going to be an easier bluff if you have the Hippowdon on the side with the Mega Sharpedo, as opposed to the Mega Steelix and the Mega Sharpedo on the same side. I think you agreed with me on that, right, Talon?
Yeah. You guys, you've shown that you can play well, like in the first week. But the Drifblim did catch you off guard. You didn't know what it was doing because obviously, you know, VGC and Drifblim doesn't really come up often. They knew what they were doing. Felt after a few of the stockpiles should have gone after it. Again, as Wit said, you need to split up the Megas because if you put them both on the same side, they're just going to be like, okay, so one of those Megas isn't coming and then the other two are coming, so we know not to worry about one of the Megas. So they can just instantly decide right there 3 of the mons that are coming. And then if they think that Steelix isn't coming, then they know that Hippowdon isn't as well. So they get your bluff right there.
I think with that, we can move on to number 11, where we both have Team Mythical. So as we're going along, as the weeks progress, you're going to see our rankings are going to be incredibly similar, unlike the past couple weeks where things have fluctuated a little bit. But here, as we get down, it's going to be very, very close when it comes to our rankings. But with Team Mythical here, their matchup against Disney, again, another huge competitor. This week ended up being like teams at the top versus the teams at the bottom of our power rankings. And this one, it didn't really show it as much. Mythical played really, really well, and the Guzzlord was absolutely amazing. I love the Z stockpile, but they got taken advantage of because of the soak, rather. But Team Mythical otherwise played really well. However, a lot of the other teams played a lot better than they did, and so I had to keep them at number 11. What about you, Talon?
Yeah, I'm so happy to be able to finally move them up. The week against Team Jamie, I wanted to move them up then, but I just couldn't because of the way other teams played. Now, with the way, unfortunately, Blue Hunnets played, I was able to move them up. The Guzzlord was great. I think they would have done a lot more work if it wasn't a water type and they were able to nip that in the bud and switch out, because Bulu obviously was able to bulk up for free and then take it down. And with Guzzlord's super high HP stat, Horn Leech was healing them a lot more than it normally would have. Other than that, they played really well and they really gave Team We Disney a really hard run for their money.
Next, we have our first split.
Yeah.
I have Subs at 10, Leaky at 9. Talon, you have Leaky at 10, Subs at 9. Why don't you go ahead and talk about Leaky?
Okay, so the reason I have Subs above Leaky is because they've lost twice to too high competitive, but they've only beaten the lowest competitor in Blue Hunnets, and it hasn't shown throughout the season that they've done well enough to keep them above Subs, because even though Subs did get absolutely demolished this week, they did, however, play fantastic last week, better than Leaky did on their victory. So I've had to keep them below Subs for now.
Yeah, and like my reasonings for Leaky to be higher up is actually more toward my reasonings for why Team Subs is at 10.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll go more into that. So Subs I think they played a game where they made all the right plays that they could. However, they crippled themselves immensely from the get-go. By not bringing that Typhlosion, they were unable to really break through the Metagross, really break through that Pheromosa, especially because it was a Scarf Typhlosion, especially in Tailwind. You have a Scarf Eruption, and it would just decimate a bunch of that team when you're facing Team Drinking Birds, who has a potential to bring the sun. Well, yes, Shiftry is Chlorophyll and might have a decent matchup. Typhlosion had a much better matchup, and I think on the spot, the wrong call was made. And because of that, they were already on the back heel from the very beginning. And that's the reason why I had Subs at 10 as opposed to Leaky at 10.
Yeah, it's also with the double into Metagross onto the Follow Me Blastoise. If they did have a Typhlosion there, they wouldn't have had to click Dark Pulse, they would have clicked Eruption, and it still would have hit the Metagross and possibly killed it, depending on the spread of the Metagross. So I'm going to have to agree with you there. The Typhlosion would have been a great bring. Number 8.
Yeah, Team Juice. The first thing that I want to bring up is the Wide Guard play, and then the second thing I want to bring up is the Worry Seed play, and I'm upset that we forgot about the worry seed play when we were making plays of the week.
Yeah.
I love that worry seed to take away the pixelate, but winning the 50-50 was huge between the wide guard and the King's Shield with the potential rock slide or the earthquake. The wide guard play made absolute perfect sense, and I absolutely loved it. I was able to stop the rock slide from Team Leaky's Rhyperior and able to take it out pretty much from full. I mean, that thing was pretty high up in HP, and they take out a huge threat, especially when they had that trick room. They got that call right, and that really changed the complexion of the game. And then the worry seed play, that was just absolute fantastic prep. Getting rid of Sylveon's pixelate, changing it to Insomnia, so the Hyper Voice wouldn't be super effective, or any other normal type move wouldn't be super effective against the Chestnut
And they just
or the Kiram, or like pretty much a lot of the other things on their team.
Yeah.
That was huge because it was able to keep the Chestnut alive, preserve differential, as well as make sure that they had the necessary tools to beat the Sylveon in a 1v1 matchup.
Yeah. Not to mention that with their plays with the wide guard, they had no reason really not to click it because the Necrozma was sat there recharging from Prismatic Laser. So they could take the risk. If they did get it wrong, it would have meant that they either lost their Aegislash or lost their Tornadus if they went for a Rock Slide. And Tornadus was their best check to the Rhyperior. So they really had no reason not to, because if it was a Stone Edge, then so be it. They knew that there was a chance they could miss. Rock Slide, yeah, even though there was a chance to miss, they could just negate the damage altogether and just go straight for the Grass Knot and deal with the Rhyperior right there.
And the Aegislash was low enough in HP where the Rock Slide could have potentially taken it out as well, especially because it was in sword form. Being able to use that wide guard to their advantage really helped them out.
Yeah, and the reason they've gone up 2 spaces is because even though they are 1 and 2, they have played really well with their 2 losses, taking the Team Not score down to 1 and losing to a Magearna sweep. It's a Magearna. It's gonna happen. Moving on to the next slot, we have Team Jamie in agreement. So why don't you say why you have Team Jamie in 7?
Well, Jamie, they played really well despite getting hacked on turn 2 with that freeze. I think that really changed the complexion of the game. They were able to bring it back, call a lot of the plays that Team Flawless was making, and they were able to react accordingly. A lot of the other teams are like higher up in standings, are playing a little bit better. So like everybody here from like 7 up is just incredibly hard to place just because of everything that's going on with their battles, with their prep, with everything. What about you?
Team Jamie, they are playing worthy of their 7th spot. You know, I can't put them down, I can't move them up, but they've earned their slot. You know, they've lost to Mr. Man being frozen, but even with the freeze, they managed to play around it, get it back into their favor, but unfortunately couldn't get the momentum fully in their favor and did eventually lose from the Thunder Punch. As much as I like Porygon Z conversion, I do feel like it shouldn't be relied on every match, because it's getting to a point where it's getting a little bit predictable.
Something like a Z Hyper Beam might have been able to take it out as opposed to the Z conversion, which just boosted the stats.
Next, we have another disagreement.
Yeah, it's just another one of those one-off splits that we have. That seems like it's the theme of this week. So I have Drinking Birds at 6, and you have them at 5, and then I have Flawless at 5, and you have them at 6. Well, you had the last split, so I'll take this split. So Drinking Birds, I had them at 6, mainly because the teams in front of them, they're playing very good, and the prep is very good, and I like what they're doing. Drinking Birds had an amazing 5-0 this week against Team Subs. The way they played with their Metagross, it switched in turn 1, and it never left the field, and I don't think it took damage.
It's quite crazy.
Astounding.
Yeah.
I just can't applaud them enough for that. And like you see on this screen, you have a lot of dropping down. It's just because other teams did better. It's not a fault on any of theirs. It's just because other teams did better.
For me, I have them higher than Flawless because Flawless's first victory, it was well set up, but their other loss, you know, they did struggle. They did pick up a win this week, and it was a good win with good prep, but I just feel like that Drinking Birds just played better than Flawless did for both of their victories. I do understand that Team Drinking Birds were demolished by We Disney, whereas Flawless weren't demolished by Cyberbaz. They did hold their own, so I can't knock them down too much, but I just feel like Drinking Birds just have the edge for this week. It's not a huge edge, it's very, very close. You know, and in the coming weeks, this could completely switch, and, you know, Flawless could go all the way up above Drinking Birds. Just for this week, I just feel like Drinking Birds are doing a little bit better.
I guess for that reason, I have like Flawless a little bit higher up, specifically because of the way they've been playing.
Yeah.
The game that they dropped, it was a very small margin of differential.
Yeah.
And the sweeps that they were able to pull off with the Magirna in week 1 and then the Mamo partial sweep here this week. I mean, yes, it was set up by a freeze as well as the timer running out on their play, but because of their prep with the Shuckaberry, they were able to use it to their advantage.
Yeah, they also were able to freely.
So that's why I had them a little higher up.
I think they had good prep. I just think that Team Drinking Birds just have the edge this week, which leads us to the surprising one. Number 4, we have Team Cyberbears. Now, they've moved down for both of us, and a lot of people will be thinking, oh, but they're doing really well. It's not that they're doing bad. They've moved down because of the teams above and how they've been playing.
Yeah, I feel like that's another theme for the week, is that people are moving down because of other teams playing better.
Yeah. We're not calling Cyberbears bad. We're not saying that Cyberbears doing so bad that they're getting dropped and they're going to keep dropping. This is due to the teams above and how they're playing. Because Cyberbears this week, they did still play well. They had good prep, but they just couldn't pick up the win this week against Not Scored.
Yeah, because Cyberbears played very, very well this week. Like, we can't fault them. Again, they brought it down to like a 1-0 from the Jirachi versus the Cradilly. Like, a lot of people might say, like, oh, that Raichu crit mattered so much. But, like, the calcs will even show you between the 252 HP Assault Vest Cradilly, it was going to live a Flash Cannon even if they would lock themselves in the Flash Cannon.
Yes.
Because of the Arcanine being a little bit lower from a potential Raichu Thunderbolt. So either way, the end game would have been the same. That's the reason why they're not a little bit higher up on my list.
Yeah. But furthermore, also, people will also say that the poison mattered. Well, I can tell you now, if the poison didn't happen, Arcanine would have extreme speeded and killed Breloom, died to Jirachi, where Cradilly then did half health to the Jirachi, and then the next turn, Cradilly would have picked up the kill and taken at maximum half health from a Choice Specs Flash Cannon if they locked into it. Even with the crit and the poison, Team Not Scored was still coming out with a win in this match, because they would have protected on the Flash Cannon when the Sludge Bomb went off, and then they would have extreme speeded. So this wasn't a case of hacks, this was a case of Not Scored showing that they had the proper matchup and they played better this week.
Well, I guess that's the transition into our next slide, where you have them at 3, I have them at 2. I think we pretty much explained why we had them there.
Yeah, there's also the fact that they are 3-0 at the moment, and we can't keep ignoring that. Like, a lot of people are saying, oh, we're all ignoring them for winning each match, which we aren't. We just were going by how people were playing. First game through hacks, second game also a bit of hacks involved. This game is where they proved themselves, so that's why they've moved into the top 3 now.
Because it wasn't just hacks as well, it was,
yeah,
oh, they forgot an item, oh, they brought the week 1 mod.
Yeah.
They brought everything, and they did everything to what they planned, and yes, there was a crit, yes, there was the poison, but in the end, those really didn't matter in the long haul. It might have changed how the mindset of how the games might have progressed, but I still feel like the same outcome would have happened, which is why I have them up at 2, and they moved really well. They really spoke to me in the sense of their prep and their play. They were able to focus more and be able to bring out the wins against the upper tier opponents.
Yeah,
I think so far they face every team they face so far has top cut.
Faced Cyberbears, Juice, yeah, and then their first week was against Dream Ball. Yes, so everyone they faced champions,
they faced
top
everybody
cut.
who's top cut.
Yeah, so they've had a hard matchup.
Got 3 wins against all of them.
Yeah, they don't face them again, so unless they make top cut. So they've got their wins there and they've secured it. So they're moving on quite nicely at the moment in a steady lead. In record-wise. I think apart from Disney, they're the only one who is 3-0 as well. They're not slacking, which is why people are going to think that me having Dream Ball above is a little bit weird. And I'll go into that now. The reason I have Dream Ball in number 2 over Not Scored, with them having a loss to Not Scored, is because that loss obviously was through hacks, and this week they demolished with their Drift Blim. The setup Drift Blim was absolutely disgusting but beautiful. It was played out amazingly. It got them the win they needed. It got them the sweep. They knew how to set it up. They knew when to baton pass. They knew when they had to do everything. They knew when they had to click Heal Pulse with Feeny. They were on top of that game the entire way through it. And they were also on top of their game last week, which is, why I put them at number 3 last week as well. So I feel like even with the loss over Not Scored, the way they're playing currently is just giving them an edge, and that's why I put them at number 2.
I agree with everything that he said, but I have them at 3 only because I feel Not Scored is playing better. Dream Ball, that setup was, like Talon said, they knew when to stockpile, they knew when to baton pass, they knew when to D-dance, they knew when to swagger. And they had just enough turns so that the swagger would work. They switched out the Finny, brought back the Misty Terrain so they could swagger again. Like they knew exactly what they were doing the whole time. They were in control. the entire time.
Yeah, they also had their Fiendly click heal post when they knew that Blue Hornets were going to be scared of the Zygarde, so that their damage would have been negated. But that moves on to number 1. Why don't you take this one?
Well, we Disney. I don't really know what to say. They're on top of their game. The soak play, they're playing out of their minds.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the top got.
Shofu great predictions. Duncan Shofu great prep. Like everything that they're doing in every single week, not only is working out for them, but working out for them in a glorious fashion.
Yeah.
There's very little stopping them right now. I am very interested to see how Flawless is going to take them down this week, if they're going to. I'm really looking forward to everything we Disney is going to bring forward from here on out.
Yeah. And the way they're playing, I would lock them every week in pick'ems, but with our little fun rule of not locking every week, I just can't. But they are playing fantastic. They are on top of their game. They're on top of the MBL. They are Disney. They ain't losing anytime soon. Well, they could, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. Good luck to We Disney, and I honestly see them becoming champions at the moment, the way they're playing.
All right.
So that,
and with that
wraps it up.
As we begin to sign off, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the MBL channel. Leave your power rankings down below so we see how closely they match up to ours. Just tell us where we messed up. We always like constructive criticism. So signing off, this is Witz.
And this is Towan. See you later.